Knowing I was afraid of the dark, my boyfriend Walden still left me in the haunted house. He ran off to protect my roommate who I knew was scared. In desperation, I threw myself into the arms of the aloof campus tyrant, my voice trembling. "Please, don't push me away." The man chuckled softly. His large hands held me tight, letting me wrap my legs around his waist, feeling his firm chest and abs. His voice was low and magnetic. "Hold on tight, I won't be responsible if you fall off." Later, Walden grabbed me with reddened eyes. "Are you really breaking up with me?" I coldly shook him off. "If you're going to cry, go far away." "Don't cry away my good fortune." I spent the night out with the campus tyrant. Walden went crazy looking for me. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Iris, can I borrow Walden for a bit? You know I'm terrified of ghosts. My roommate Eva pleaded, hands clasped together. Her words were directed at me, but her gaze was fixed on Walden. I was a bit displeased and turned to ask Walden, "Do you want to go with her?" I had hoped Walden would refuse. But he just smiled gently at me and said, "Whatever you want." Those 3 words made me feel like the man before me was slowly rotting away in my heart. Not wanting to make a scene, I said directly to Eva, "We have so many guys in our club, do you really have to choose someone else's boyfriend?" Eva looked embarrassed by my words. She gazed pitifully at Walden, and seeing no reaction from him, she seemed to get angry and turned to find someone else. In the end, perhaps out of spite, she rejected other guys' invitations to team up and chose a timid girl instead. Walden appeared unconcerned by this incident on the surface, gently ruffling my hair. "Let's go queue up," he said. But I saw his gaze inadvertently flick towards Eva, his eyes filled with concern. This amusement park's haunted house was famously terrifying, and you could only enter in pairs. Our club had 10 people, perfect for 5 teams, with Walden and me at the back of the line. As soon as we stepped into the haunted house, a dim blue light surrounded us. Walden held my hand the whole time, keeping me behind him protectively. Halfway through, we suddenly heard Eva's scream from up ahead. The next second, the lights went out, and everything went pitch black. Without a second thought, Walden let go of my hand and ran towards the direction of Eva's scream. I called out his name desperately, but he didn't look back. Walden knew very well that I had a fear of darkness. If he hadn't repeatedly promised to protect me, I wouldn't have come in with them. Fear consumed my heart, my legs gradually weakening until I collapsed helplessly on the ground, hugging myself tightly. When I was young, I was once locked in a dark room all night by my stepmother for refusing to call her mom. It was Walden who rescued me. He promised then that he would never leave me alone in the dark again. Now, he had broken that promise. My whole body began to tremble as I curled up in a corner, even breathing becoming difficult. Suddenly, I heard the sound of chains clashing. It got closer and closer, accompanied by the scraping sound of a chainsaw on the ground. Like an oasis in the desert, I used my last bit of strength to run towards the sound, throwing myself into a sturdy embrace. Firm pecs and abs pressed tightly against me. I realized then that he wasn't wearing a shirt. But I couldn't care about that now, I could only cling tightly to this last lifeline. The man's body tensed, and he chuckled. "Miss, I'm supposed to be playing a chainsaw killer. Please respect my profession." He reached out to push me away, but I held on even tighter. "Please, don't push me away." At this point, I had no capacity left for thought. After a moment's hesitation, a pair of large hands suddenly lifted me up. My feet left the ground, and I instinctively wrapped my legs around his waist. A low, magnetic voice sounded by my ear. "Then hold on tight, I won't be responsible if you fall off." I obeyed, holding on even tighter. The man's body shuddered, and his laughing breath tickled my ear. And so, he carried me steadily out of the haunted house. The rest of our club was already waiting for us outside. They were all shocked when they saw who was carrying me. "Andrew, what are you doing here?" I looked up, and it really was Andrew. He was Walden's roommate, and also a notorious campus tyrant. I didn't interact with him much, only hearing from Walden that he fought recklessly. And few people dared to provoke him. So whenever I saw him before, I'd stay far away and try not to talk to him. I never expected that he would be the one to save me this time. Not far away, Walden was comforting a crying Eva. But his eyes were fixed on Andrew's hands holding me. Andrew put me down, his tone indifferent. This amusement park is owned by my family. They were short-staffed today, so I came to help out. As he spoke, he casually took a white t-shirt handed to him by a nearby staff member and put it on. His physique was too good, broad shoulders and a narrow waist forming a perfect inverted triangle. As soon as he came out, he attracted the gazes of many passers-by. It was indeed better to cover up. Walden gave Andrew a long look but ultimately said nothing. He only said to me, "Iris, come here." I did go over, but I raised my hand and slapped Walden hard across the face, stunning him. Others wanted to come up and stop him, but Andrew blocked them in a few steps. He didn't need to say anything, just standing there, no one dared to approach. I looked at Walden, my pupils like frozen ice. "Walden, we're breaking up." The club president hurriedly tried to mediate. "Iris, don't be so upset." Walden was just worried about Eva and acted rashly. "He didn't intentionally forget you inside." Some guys muttered quietly. "Is it really worth making such a fuss over this little thing?" I turned to look at the boy who spoke. "If it's such a small matter, then why don't you carry Eva back to school later?" As soon as I finished speaking, the boy's girlfriend immediately slapped him hard on the head with her shoe. "If you dare to carry that hypocritical woman, I'll chop your hands off." The man immediately ran away, begging for mercy. "I wouldn't dare. I won't even touch a single strand of her hair." Andrew's snicker could be heard from the side. I turned my head to give Walden one last look, then left without saying another word. Outside the amusement park, I took out my phone to call a taxi. Because it was the weekend, it was peak time for rides at the amusement park. I tried for over 10 minutes but no one accepted the order. Suddenly, a black Bentley stopped in front of me. The window lowered, and it was Andrew. He glanced at me indifferently. "Get in." Looking at the ride-hailing app on my phone that still hadn't responded. I didn't hesitate and walked to the back door. But I found I couldn't open it. Andrew turned to look at me, his eyes seemingly mocking. "You really think I'm your chauffeur? Sit in the front." I was a bit surprised. I'd heard that Andrew never let girls sit in his passenger seat. That's why I was going to sit in the back. Maybe his habits had changed. I didn't ask further and opened the front passenger door to get in. Not long after, I received a call notification from Walden. I didn't answer. I hung up directly and blocked all his contact information. Such poor taste. Andrew suddenly blurted out beside me. I didn't argue. "Yeah, my taste is terrible. That's why I've decided never to have a boyfriend again. Being alone is fine too." Unexpectedly, this time Andrew didn't continue to mock me. Instead, his eyelids twitched slightly, and he changed the subject. "No need to be so pessimistic. Who knows, maybe your next boyfriend will be an absolutely perfect man?" I didn't respond, assuming he was joking. I turned to look out the window. We soon arrived at the dormitory building. I unbuckled my seatbelt and politely thanked Andrew. "Thank you for helping me today. I'll treat you to a meal sometime." "When is sometime?" I paused, not expecting Andrew to follow up with a question. I could only smile awkwardly. "Whenever you're free, I guess." Andrew's voice was lazy. "I'm free anytime." Originally, I was just being polite. Shouldn't normal people just say no need to be so formal in response? Why was it different with Andrew? I really couldn't adapt to his way of pushing every conversation. I could only reluctantly answer. "Well, I'll check my class schedule and let you know when I'm free." Before Andrew could respond, I had already gotten out of the car. I rushed back to the dormitory in a flurry. Before I could catch my breath, a message from Andrew popped up. "How about I treat you instead?" Reading the text, I somehow felt he was being a bit cautious. But was this really about who's treating whom? They say he has a bad temper, and whoever offends him is in for trouble. If we really have a meal together, what if I say something wrong and he gets angry with me? I remembered that I had added Andrew's contact information before. Because Walden had forgotten to bring his textbook. I ran to help him get it during the hot lunch break. Only Andrew was in the dorm. Walden gave me Andrew's contact and asked me to add him and trouble him to bring the textbook down to me. At that time, I was very nervous, worried that Andrew wouldn't accept my friend request. Or that he wouldn't help me get the book. Unexpectedly, Andrew quickly brought it down for me. But his expression was sour. In this scorching sun, he just let you come alone? I nodded slightly, thanking him. He grumbled at me, idiot. Then he stuffed a drink into my arms. Nobody's drinking it, so it's yours. I looked down and saw it was my favorite coconut milk. After that, whenever I encountered him, I always felt like he was targeting me intentionally or unintentionally. I didn't know what I had done to offend him. Thinking about it, Andrew should dislike me. So every time I saw him, I tried to stay as far away as possible. But now, Andrew's actions really left me confused. When I couldn't figure it out, I decided not to think about it anymore. I didn't reply to Andrew's message. Because I was too tired, I simply tidied up a bit and went straight to bed. I slept until it was dark. No one had returned to the dorm. I ate something casually and took the trash bag downstairs to dispose of it. Just as I reached the entrance of the dormitory building, I saw Eva being escorted back by several people, including Walden. Walden, Iris isn't really going to break up with you, is she? I stopped in my tracks and heard Walden snort lightly. Do you think that's possible? The tone of those around immediately lightened. I knew it, Iris is such a good girl, Walden knows how to handle her best. But I saw that Andrew seemed quite interested in her. Walden laughed disdainfully. Impossible, I know Iris, he's not her type. Exactly, I bet she'll come back to Walden for reconciliation within a month. I bet a week, Walden is so handsome and excellent, it's a waste for him to be with Iris. Eva's voice was choked with sobs. Walden, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Walden gently wiped away her tears. It's not your fault, it's Iris who doesn't understand, if only she were half as sensible as you. As they said, Walden was indeed excellent. Good family background, handsome, and always at the top of his class. But in university, grades never meant much. And I never felt I wasn't good enough for him. With a click, I opened the door of the dormitory building. And walked out as if no one was there. Everyone fell silent. Walden withdrew his hand from Eva's face the moment he saw me. I could feel his eyes fixed on me. As I was about to re-enter the dormitory building, I heard Walden's slightly hurt voice from behind, Iris. I didn't respond, closed the door of the dormitory building, and left. The next day, I applied to quit the club. I had only joined the club for Walden in the first place, and now it had no meaning anymore. It was better to spend time on more worthwhile things. In the following days, I deliberately avoided Andrew. He didn't send me any more messages either. Occasionally when we bumped into each other on the road, seeing that I had no intention of greeting him, he just glanced at me indifferently. He didn't say much. Just when I thought his previous words were just a spur of the moment, he suddenly cornered me in the teaching building. Are you avoiding me? I stepped back, he moved closer, directly forcing me into the corner, trapping me between his arms. I reached out to push him away. But Andrew directly grasped my hand and placed it on his chest. Leaning in closer, you've hugged me, touched me, and now you want to be irresponsible? My face turned red with embarrassment. When did I ever touch you? Andrew slid my hand from his chest directly into his shirt onto his abs, now. My mind went blank for a moment. How could this man lie so blatantly? Compared to my bewilderment, Andrew's gaze on me was serious and certain. Iris, I don't like playing games, I'm only direct. So, I like you. Can you try to like me back? The last sentence, Andrew asked carefully, I could feel his heart beating fast. Before I could recover from the shock, he added another sentence. Also, I've never had a girlfriend. So, he was aware that his reputation wasn't good. With rumors saying he had more girlfriends than he could count on both hands. Why are you explaining this to me? It doesn't matter if others misunderstand, but I can't let the girl I like misunderstand, can I? He was indeed very direct. But, surprisingly, This directness didn't make me dislike him. "How does it feel?" Andrew suddenly asked me. "Not bad," I answered instinctively. Only then did I realize he had already let go of my hand. And my hand was still on his abs, unconsciously caressing due to nervousness. Realizing this, I immediately withdrew it. "I didn't mean to." Andrew's smile deepened. "It's okay, I'm willing to let you touch." I found that he looked quite handsome when he smiled. "You don't need to give me an answer now, tell me when you've thought it through." After saying this, Andrew held my hand and walked out. "Where are we going?" "To eat. You haven't forgotten that you still owe me a meal, have you?" I originally thought that a rich kid like Andrew would only eat at fancy restaurants. When we left the school gates, I quietly checked my phone balance. I felt like this was the last time I'd be seeing those numbers. To my surprise, he took me directly to a new hot pot restaurant near the school. "This place has the Sichuan spicy hot pot you like." Andrew looked down at me, his expression slightly smug, as if waiting for me to pat his head and praise him. I didn't know how Andrew knew I liked Sichuan spicy food, even Walden didn't know that. Later when ordering, I found out he even knew my habits of not eating cilantro and loving organ meats. Through the rising steam, his face looked sharp and unrestrained, yet when he looked at me, there was an undissolvable tenderness. While I was lost in thought, a pair of chopsticks brought some fatty beef to my mouth. And I instinctively opened my mouth to eat it. Only then did I realize it was Andrew feeding me, his action completely natural. I froze on the spot. Andrew looked innocent. "I saw you were staring at me and forgot to eat. The meat in your bowl was getting cold, so I fed you." "Don't worry, I used the serving chopsticks." Like a child caught doing something wrong, I hurriedly buried my blushing face in my bowl, eating with my head almost inside it. Andrew's voice came from above. "Are you embarrassed?" I paused, not answering, and buried my head even deeper. "Actually, I sometimes get lost looking at you too. Next time when I do that, you can feed me, and we'll be even." Help, this was the first time I hated such a straightforward guy. How could he say these things so naturally? After dinner, I secretly paid the bill while pretending to go to the bathroom. When Andrew found out, he looked a bit dejected. "Are you in such a hurry to draw a clear line between us?" "I get it, you must really dislike having dinner with me." "This meal was just to repay my favor. I'm sorry for wasting your time." After saying this, Andrew gave a self-deprecating smile. His eyes reddening, his expression indescribably hurt. Watching his sad figure leave, I felt guilty for the first time, wondering if I had done something wrong. Even late into the night, Andrew's sad expression was still in my mind. I had to sit up in the middle of the night and slap myself. I'm really not a good person. The next day, I told my best friend Daisy, who was studying in another city, about what happened. After reading it, she sent a message back within seconds, analysis complete, he was faking it. His goal was to make you soften towards him. I replied, "No way. You're still too young." As the saying goes, a man's tears are 3 parts acting, enough to break your heart. You said he's never had a girlfriend, so he must have a strategist behind him. This won't do, I can't lose either. I need to teach you a few tricks, otherwise you'll end up completely wrapped around this Andrew's finger sooner or later. Is that really necessary? Don't worry about it, this isn't just between you two anymore. It's a battle of wits between us strategists. Reading Daisy's messages, I couldn't help but smile. What are you looking at? You seem so happy. An unpleasant voice came from nearby. It was Walden. He sat down directly next to me. I suddenly remembered that we had chosen this elective course together. I put away my smile. I'm sorry, this seat is taken. Walden smiled helplessly. Are you still angry? I was wrong to abandon you, I won't do it again, okay? You've blocked all my contact information, are you afraid you won't be able to resist contacting me? Hearing this, I found it laughable. I looked at him sarcastically. Walden, it would be great if you could share some of that baseless confidence with others. After saying this, I stood up, ready to change seats. Walden blocked me. Iris, that's enough. I've already given you a way out, what more do you want? I want you to get lost. Walden got angry and held his phone up in front of me, showing several messages from girls confessing to him after they found out he had broken up. Eva was among them. You don't think I can't do without you, do you? I can start fresh right away. I advise you to quit while you're ahead. I sneered, so while you were with me, you were cultivating so many backups? Even a broken ship has 3 intact nails. I wish you all the best, may you be locked together forever and never come out to harm others. I deliberately raised my voice, and everyone else turned to look. They started pointing and whispering about Walden. I successfully moved to another seat. Walden still wanted to come pull me, but stopped when he saw the teacher coming in. He could only slam the desk hard. Iris, don't regret this. The next day, I saw intimate photos of Eva and Walden on Eva's social media. It was a group photo. The two of them sat in the middle, hugging tightly, very eye-catching. But I didn't have the heart to pay attention to them. Andrew hadn't been to the cafeteria for 2 days. I used to run into him in the cafeteria almost every day. Could he really still be angry about what happened last time? At this point, I didn't notice that I had already started to care about him gradually. As I walked out of the cafeteria, I was suddenly blocked by a tall figure. It was Simon, Andrew's good friend. He was in the same class as Andrew and Walden. As soon as he saw me, he directly put a stack of documents in my hands. He told me that Andrew had a fever and was now staying in an apartment off campus. These documents were urgently needed by Andrew. But Simon had something to do and couldn't deliver them, so he had to trouble me. The address was written on the sticky note on top. Simon came and went in a hurry. Before I could open my mouth, he had already run far away. Hearing that Andrew had a fever, I was still a bit worried. Looking at the things in my hand, I hesitated for a moment, but still decided to deliver them to him. Following the address to the apartment door, I rang the doorbell. After waiting for a while, I was about to press it a second time. The door opened. Andrew stood at the door, his hair messy. He was wearing a shirt on his upper body, but the buttons weren't fastened. His chest and abs fully visible. I caught my breath, subconsciously preparing to explain. But Andrew seemed to already know, and spoke in a slightly hoarse voice, "Come in." I followed him into the room, and just as I closed the door, I felt a weight on my back. Andrew had collapsed directly onto me. It was then that I realized his face was pale, and his body temperature was frighteningly hot. He really did have a fever. I spoke in a panicked tone. "Andrew, how did you get such a high fever? Let me take you to the hospital." As I said this, I prepared to take out my phone to call a taxi. Andrew stopped me. "No need, the doctor just came to see me and prescribed medication. I'll be fine after some rest." I nodded and helped Andrew to the bed. His shirt had come off at some point. His chest rose and fell with his breathing. At least earlier there was some coverage. Now it was directly 3D, high definition, and censored. I couldn't help but swallow. If Andrew wasn't in this state right now, I would really suspect he was trying to seduce me. Taking a deep breath, I closed my eyes and took the nearby blanket to cover Andrew thoroughly. Turning my head, I saw the medicine and instructions placed beside the bed. It clearly stated to wipe the body with alcohol, then take the medicine. Looking at the alcohol and towel nearby, I found myself in a dilemma. Given Andrew's current condition, he definitely wouldn't be able to wipe himself. Should I help him wipe? If I did that, it would really be difficult for me to remain pure-minded. In the past, I always told Daisy that I liked thin and gentle guys. Now seeing Andrew's physique, I admit I was a bit pretentious before. Just as I was hesitating, Andrew suddenly started coughing violently, looking very uncomfortable. Making up my mind, I took a deep breath and softly asked Andrew, "Can you sit up?" Andrew shook his head. "My whole body has no strength, I can't move." Now he had lost his arrogant and unrestrained air, replaced by a sense of vulnerability. It made one's heart ache. In the end, I still helped him wipe his body with alcohol, my face red. Although there was a towel between us, I could still clearly feel the muscle lines on his body. I also noticed his body getting hotter, and his breathing involuntarily became heavier. Finally, as if he could no longer endure it, Andrew suddenly grabbed my hand, his voice husky. That's enough. But I had only wiped half. Just as I was about to remind him to follow the doctor's orders, Andrew suddenly got up and quickly walked to the bathroom. I was confused, wondering if the alcohol was really that effective. He couldn't even sit up just now, and now he could walk so fast? After coming out of the bathroom, Andrew's complexion was much better than before. After feeding him medicine again, Andrew had more energy. He looked at the documents I brought and found that an important contract was missing. It must have been left in the dormitory. That contract was urgent, so Andrew prepared to go get it. But he wasn't in very good condition right now. At my insistence, he agreed to let me go get it for him. Before I left, Andrew held my hand, his tone anxious. "Come back right after you get it, don't talk to anyone else." I knew who he was referring to. I smiled and ruffled his hair. "You rest well, wait for me to come back." I arrived at the bottom of Andrew's dormitory building. The doorman saw me and knowingly pretended to casually open the door for me. Usually, Andrew would give him things he didn't need. So he was willing to provide some conveniences. Andrew had instructed him to make sure I came out within 10 minutes, otherwise he would come up to find me. I hurriedly nodded. Arriving at Andrew's dormitory door, I knocked. A boy came to open the door, saw me, and immediately smiled knowingly. "Walden, someone's here for you." Then he went out, considerately leaving the space to us. Walden, who had been staring at his phone, revealed a smug smile when he saw me. "Now you're feeling anxious? Even coming to my dorm, I told you to quit while you were ahead." Before Walden could finish, he saw me walk past him straight to Andrew's bed, where I found that contract in the drawer. Just as I was about to leave, Walden grabbed my arm. "Iris, what's the meaning of this?" I replied calmly, helping Andrew get some documents. Walden paused. "Are you two together? You really want to break up with me?" Towards the end, Walden's eyes suddenly turned red. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Apparently, not every guy's teary eyes would make me feel sympathetic. Like Walden right now, I only thought he had conjunctivitis. I coldly shook off his hand. "If you're going to cry, go far away. Don't cry away my good fortune." As I left, I clearly heard a chair being kicked over and glass shattering behind me. I didn't pay attention. I just thought he was both ridiculous and childish. He might enjoy smashing things now, but he'd have to clean it up himself later. After leaving the dormitory building, I carefully thought about my relationship with Andrew on the way. When Walden asked if Andrew and I were together earlier, I didn't feel disgusted, nor did I have a strong urge to deny it. Perhaps I did like him a bit. After all, if it wasn't a guy I liked, why would I be willing to help wipe his body? I returned to Andrew's apartment and entered the passcode. I found that he was already asleep. I put away the documents, thinking he should eat something before taking medicine when he wakes up. I decided to make some light porridge for him. Fortunately, his kitchen had everything. There must be a housekeeper who regularly comes to cook for him and stock up on things. Time passed unknowingly, and as I was concentrating on cooking the porridge, Andrew's voice suddenly came from behind. "What are you doing?" I was startled and quickly turned around, only to find Andrew very close to me. I instinctively wanted to step back, but remembered the porridge was cooking behind me. At the critical moment, Andrew wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me into his embrace. Seeing I was okay, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. "Be careful." I noticed Andrew was still wearing the white shirt from earlier, still unbuttoned. My face slightly reddened. "Can't you dress properly before coming out?" Andrew didn't answer, just looked down at me. An ambiguous atmosphere flowed between us. My hands tightly gripped his sleeves. I don't know if it was because Andrew's body temperature was too high. I felt myself gradually heating up, my face getting redder. "Why do you keep staring at me? I want to kiss you, but I'm afraid I'll infect you with my illness. And I'm also worried you'll hate me for it." I really don't understand why Andrew can always speak so bluntly. But I seemed to be gradually falling for his directness. Before my brain could react, I had already pulled down Andrew's collar, stood on my tiptoes, and kissed his lips. It was just a light peck, and I was about to pull away. When Andrew directly held the back of my head, lifted me onto the kitchen island, and took control, intensifying the kiss. He didn't forget to remind me during the process. Open your mouth, breathe. Until my whole body went soft and I was almost suffocating. Only then did Andrew let me go. The man's nose tip lightly brushed against my cheek. Slightly panting, he said, "Iris, this was my first kiss. You can't not take responsibility now." Actually, it was my first kiss too. Walden and I only officially got together after starting university. And we hadn't developed to the point of kissing before he started flirting with other girls frequently. We spent more time arguing than being together. I wrapped my arms around Andrew's neck and smiled. When did I say I wouldn't take responsibility? Andrew's eyes lit up with joy, and he leaned in to kiss me again, but I blocked him. You're still sick. You need to rest. And I'm still cooking porridge. After saying that, I got out of Andrew's embrace and ran back to continue cooking, leaving a dissatisfied Andrew standing there alone. Andrew fell asleep again after eating. The documents had already been taken away by their family driver. I originally wanted to go back to school, but Andrew kept holding my hand while sleeping and wouldn't let go. I was also worried that he might develop a fever again in the middle of the night. So I decided to stay and take care of him. When I woke up again, I found myself in bed, not knowing when I had been carried there. Andrew was nowhere to be seen. The sound of water came from the bathroom. He was probably taking a shower. When Andrew came out, he looked normal, as if he had recovered from his illness. Seeing that I was awake, he leaned down and kissed me on the lips. You're up. What do you want for breakfast? He acted like we had been a couple for a long time. I couldn't help but ask, aren't you worried about my morning breath? Really? As if to verify, Andrew leaned down and kissed me again, smiling. No, it's sweet. Well, everything is sweet in a lover's eyes. Andrew went out to prepare breakfast. After washing up, I realized my phone was dead. I plugged in the charger and turned it on, only to be bombarded with dozens of missed calls and messages. Some were from my roommate, telling me that Walden had been frantically looking for me last night. He had called almost every friend of mine he knew, asking about my whereabouts. Without a doubt, the dozens of unfamiliar numbers calling me must have been from new phone numbers Walden had gotten. I ignored them all, deleting and blocking them in one go. Walking out of the room, I saw Andrew making breakfast. His phone on the dining table with the screen unlocked. I glanced down and saw his chat history with Simon. The latest message was from Simon. Hey bro, please, wear less when she comes. Did you see the male bodhisattva videos I sent you? Don't waste that rare good body of yours. Otherwise, last night's ice bath would have been for nothing. I walked up to Andrew with his phone. So you really do have a strategist. Andrew didn't look embarrassed at being caught. Instead, he spread his hands nonchalantly. Fortunately, he's somewhat useful. He helped me win you over. I laughed awkwardly and asked tentatively. So, those male bodhisattva videos he sent you, can I take a look? Andrew gritted his teeth. Sure, when we have time later, I'll perform them for you one by one. Well, that's not a bad idea. After all, Andrew's body is no worse than theirs. Andrew suddenly realized something. Wait, what you just said was a bit strange. Do you have a strategist too? He then tried to check my phone. I used all my strength to stop him. If he saw the advice Daisy had given me, I'd want to die. In this world, anything can be seen, except for my chat history with my best friend. Those are the things that, even when I die, need to be written into my will for my best friend to destroy. When I returned to the dorm at noon and just pushed open the door, I heard Eva crying out on the balcony. Walden, what do you take me for by doing this now? Don't forget, I'm your girlfriend now. I don't know what Walden said on the other end. Eva became angry and embarrassed. Walden, you bastard. I had no interest in getting involved in their love-hate entanglement. So I quietly grabbed my books and left for class. In the days I've been with Andrew, my life rhythm hasn't changed much. But my friends all say that I smile more often now. Even Daisy couldn't help but say, now you finally look like you're in a relationship. That previous one was just trash. Andrew doesn't negate or criticize me for being boring like Walden did. On the contrary, he always encourages me and accompanies me in doing things I like. When I want to study in the library, he accompanies me to the library. When I discuss off-campus competition content with my group members, he goes to do his own things. No one says couples have to be stuck together all the time. We both have our own dreams and are working hard to become better people. I originally thought Walden and I would never cross paths again. Unexpectedly, on my way back to the dorm after class one day, I saw Walden standing downstairs. I originally planned to ignore him completely, but Walden blocked my way, laughing self-mockingly. "You won't even say hello to me now?" I impatiently said, "Do you have something to say?" Walden silently took out his phone. "I've already broken up with Eva, and I've deleted all other girls from my phone. I promise I won't flirt with other women anymore. Can you stop being angry with me now?" I shook my head helplessly. "Walden, I was never angry with you. I truly don't like you anymore. When you kept entangling with other girls, we became impossible." Walden hurriedly explained, "I wasn't entangling with them, they were the ones seducing me. I never liked Eva. You were always the one I liked. She was just a distraction for me. You are my..." Before Walden could finish, I slapped him hard. "Walden, how can you say such things? It turns out you didn't just gradually become rotten, you've been rotten to the core all along." Leaving Walden standing there in shock, I prepared to leave. After walking a few steps, I saw Eva hiding in the corner. She stood there with a pale face, undoubtedly having heard everything just now. I didn't say anything, nor did I feel sorry for her. It was nothing more than reaping what she sowed. In the following days, I focused most of my energy on studying and off-campus competitions. Even Andrew was neglected by me for quite a while. It wasn't until the holidays that I had time to properly accompany him. Finally, in the new semester, I got the opportunity to study abroad. This had always been my dream. The day I received my acceptance letter, I saw Walden. He looked much thinner than I remembered, and more haggard. Walden forced a smile. "You finally succeeded after all." I smiled back. "Yes, you always belittled me, telling me it was impossible, but I achieved it through my own abilities." Walden's face paled. "Can you not leave? For my sake? Let's start over." I felt like I heard something ridiculous. "For you? Why? Are you worthy?" These three questions left Walden speechless. Ignoring his desperate expression, I walked past him and left. At the bottom of the dormitory building, Andrew was standing there waiting for me. Feeling a bit nervous, I asked him, "Do you want me to stay too?" Andrew shook his head with a smile and took out a new acceptance letter. "As it happens, I'm also going to study at the same university as you." My eyes flashed with joy, but I still tried to calm myself down. "Andrew, I don't want you to make this decision because of me. Everyone is an independent individual, and I want him to do what he likes, just like me." Andrew walked up to me and tapped my forehead. "Silly, of course not. My parents have always wanted me to study abroad, but I was too lazy before and didn't want to bother. Even without you, I would have gone sooner or later. But with you, it's even better." After saying this, Andrew opened his arms. "Don't you want a hug?" I happily threw myself into his embrace. "Yes, with you, it's even better. We are not anyone's accessories. Without you, I would still strive to become a better person. But with you, it's even better." Andrew first met Iris at the beginning of college. She was holding a suitcase in one hand and grabbing a man who was trying to take upskirt photos of a young girl with the other. She said she had already called the police and demanded the man delete the photos immediately and apologize to the girl. Even though she was just a young girl herself, her voice was trembling as she spoke. But she didn't back down at all, her voice getting louder and louder, attracting more and more onlookers. Before Andrew could step in, she had already successfully gotten the man taken away by the police, and made him bow and apologize to the victim. At that time, Andrew thought this girl was quite interesting. Later, he learned her name was Iris. However, her taste in boyfriends wasn't great. She was actually dating Walden, the roommate Andrew disliked the most in his dorm. Every time he heard Walden talking about other women's bodies in the dorm, he would feel that Iris deserved better. He even had the urge to steal her away from Walden. While Andrew was in this internal struggle, a chance encounter led him to meet Iris trembling with fear in a haunted house. Actually, when she called out Walden's name, Andrew already knew it was her. That's why he walked over. Unexpectedly, Iris immediately threw herself at him, hugging him tightly. At that moment, Andrew made up his mind to protect this girl in his arms for a lifetime. Since they were already hugging, why not make it last a lifetime?